back. He picked up the remote control with his arm that wasn't in a sling. I might watch some television. The more noise coming from his room, the better. He punched the on button and the TV flickered to CNN, the channel Landers, the day guard, preferred. It was a good thing Landers wasn't here tonight. He hung out in the room with Reid a lot so that he could watch TV. Vasquez, on the other hand, only entered the room to accompany the hospital staff. The rest of the time he stood watch outside the door. "Don't stay up too late," Nadine advised. "You need your rest." He nodded, training his gaze on the TV as if he cared about what was happening in the rest of the world. Footage of a vaguely familiar female dressed in a boring gray suit rolled across the screen. An inside White House source reports that the first daughter has been missing for over 24 hours, ever since Wednesday afternoon following a luncheon with the Ladies Literacy League in Fort Worth, Texas, where she delivered a speech on the... Nadine tisked. "Can you believe it? Someone abducted the president's daughter. What's the world coming to?" He shook his head as if this was indeed something he gave a fuck about. "She probably took off for the weekend to Padre Island," Vasquez grumbled. "Meanwhile, every law enforcement agency in the state is on full alert, wasting time and taxpayers' money searching for her." The timing couldn't have been better, as far as Reid was concerned. Deep satisfaction pumped through his veins, mingling with the swelling adrenaline. That meant they would care less about one escaped convict. He didn't bother pointing out that the dark-haired female, who looked anywhere between the ages of 20 and 40, was the least likely candidate for a wild weekend at Padre. "Haven't you been watching the news?" Nadine asked Vasquez. "They suspect terrorists." She pointed out with an indignant sniff. "What does the media know?" The guard rolled his eyes. "Watch. She'll show up on Monday with nothing worse than a sunburn." Nadine shook her head, clearly not in agreement, and looked back to Reid. "Good night." Reid fixed a smile to his face as she slipped from the room, the guard close behind her. The door clicked softly shut, and he sat there for a long while, letting the minutes tick past, letting the hospital sink deeper into night, his hand twitching anxiously at his side. It was hard being inactive for this long. If you were idle on the inside, you didn't last very long. CNN streamed a constant feed of first Daughter Grace Reeves while reporting absolutely nothing new or enlightening. Graduate of some all-girls college. She looked uncomfortable in her own skin. She was dating the White House communications director, with rumors of an engagement imminent. Surprising, since she didn't look the type to be with the slick-looking guy mugging for the camera. They flashed pictures and footage of Grace Reeves from a braces-wearing awkward adolescent to current-day still awkward-looking adult. You would think the president had someone on staff that could coach her on how not to look so pinch-faced. Maybe they could dress her better, too. Not like a middle-aged bureaucrat. When the clock on the wall read 12:34, he decided he'd waited long enough. They had left him unrestrained. Injured and wearing a sling, and with a guard standing watch 24/7, they deemed it unnecessary. Fortunately for him. The trick would be getting out of the room, and out of the hospital, undetected. He rose from the bed and slipped the sling over his head. Dropping it on the ground, he moved his arm gingerly, experiencing only a slight twinge of discomfort from the deepest of the lacerations in his chest, but not the arm itself. The arm felt good. He'd had worse. He fashioned a lump under the covers, doing the best he could to make it look like a body. He turned off the light above his bed. It might pass for him if someone took a cursory peek inside the dim room. Moving quietly, he slipped the surgical scissors out from where he'd stashed them under the mattress and moved a chair beneath the ceiling access panel. A draft crept through the back slit of his hospital gown as he climbed up on the chair and lifted his arms, working two of the tiny screws loose in the panel. It swung down soundlessly. Sucking in a breath, he pulled himself up through the panel, grunting at the strain in his still sore muscles. The square space was barely wide enough for his big body, but he managed to heft himself through, stretching to his full height. Above his room, the space was dark and crowded with conduit pipes and hot water valves. He hunkered and ducked his head, walking on pipes, carefully choosing his steps so he didn't crash through the sheetrock. Light trickled in from another access panel ahead. Reid peered down between the slats, identifying the hallway outside his room. He kept going, looking through the square metal panels, until he finally came to one that overlooked a break room. He listened to the rumble of voices below and glimpsed the top of one man's balding head as he changed shirts. "See you tomorrow, Frank." A locker slammed shut. "Tell your wife to make some of those cookies again." "They're supposed to be for me," Frank complained. "I'm doing you a favor."